Welcome to the Papyrus Global Television World News Update. I am Christiana Babayo. Here are today's headlines. Middle East conflict escalates between US, Israel, and Iran. Israel eliminates top Iranian security official. Iran expands attacks across Iraq and Gulf region. UN and global powers call for restraint in Middle East. President Trump urges allies to join naval operations. Iran threatens major global tech companies. Ramadan nearing end across Muslim communities. Major hospital strike in Kabul, Afghanistan. IMF warns of financial stress in Congo. Ghana reviews $1 billion gold mine revival bids. South Africa deploys army to combat crime. The Middle East conflict involving the United States, Israel and Iran has entered a heightened and volatile phase as of March 17, 2026. Recent weeks have seen multi-front military operations including air and drone strikes, targeted sabotage and maritime disruptions. The confrontation, which began in late February 2026, initially focused on Israeli and US operations, targeting Iranian-backed militias and military installations. However, the conflict has now expanded to include attacks on civilian infrastructure and critical energy assets across the Gulf region. Energy analysts report that global oil prices have surged above $115 per barrel, affecting international markets and regional economies. Shipping lanes in the Strait of Hormuz and Gulf of Oman have experienced significant delays, raising fears of prolonged disruptions. Humanitarian organizations warn of a potential refugee crisis, with civilians in southern Iraq, eastern Syria and southern Lebanon fleeing conflict zones. Experts note that this represents one of the most dangerous escalations in the Middle East in over a decade. Israeli military forces reportedly carried out a precision strike on March 16, 2026, killing Major General Kaveh Mousavi, a senior Iranian security official responsible for planning operations against US and allied forces. Mousavi was considered a key strategist in Tehran's extraterritorial operations. Iran's Supreme National Security Council described the killing as a blatant act of aggression and promised swift retaliation. Analysts warn that this high-profile assassination could further escalate hostilities in Iraq, Syria, and the Gulf. Iran has expanded its response to include attacks on Iraq and several Gulf states. Missile and drone attacks have targeted military bases, energy facilities, and strategic infrastructure, including Baghdad's Green Zone, the US Embassy, Saudi Arabian oil centers, and ports in Oman and UAE. Maritime traffic in the Strait of Hormuz was temporarily disrupted, affecting regional energy exports. Security experts say Iran's operations aim to exert leverage over global powers while signaling strength to regional adversaries, increasing the risk of civilian casualties. The United Nations, European Union, and other global powers have urged restraint and immediate diplomatic engagement. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres highlighted the risk of a devastating humanitarian crisis and called for protection of civilians. Leaders from the US, UK, China, and Germany are ongoing discussions to explore mediated solutions and potential ceasefire agreements. Analysts emphasize that coordinated diplomacy remains the most effective way to prevent a broader regional war. President Donald Trump has publicly called for allied nations, including NATO partners, to deploy naval forces in the Gulf of Oman and Persian Gulf to secure strategic shipping lanes and deter further escalation. Iran warned that foreign military intervention would be considered an act of aggression, potentially triggering additional confrontations. Experts caution that careful diplomacy is required to avoid missteps that could spark direct clashes. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, the news will continue.
Paglogma 2026. The Papyrus Global launches new series starting Tuesday, 3rd March 2026. The conversation starts now across Africa. Our languages may differ, our borders may separate us, but our struggles bear semblance. Communities seeking opportunities, youth demanding inclusion, citizens calling for transparency. These are realities that unite us. Africa is united by a common challenge and a common responsibility, building resilient, inclusive, and sustainable communities. To set this conversation in motion, the Papyrus Global is launching the pre-conference live series, Governance That Touches Lives. Let's start where it matters the most.
Welcome back, and now the news will continue. Iran has issued threats against major US-based technology companies including Google, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, IBM, Oracle, and Palantir, warning of potential cyber attacks and trade disruptions. Security analysts warn that these threats could escalate into economic and technological confrontations, affecting global supply chains, cloud services, and critical infrastructure. International cybersecurity agencies are closely monitoring the situation. Muslim communities worldwide are preparing for the end of Ramadan on March 17 to 18, 2026. Religious leaders are coordinating celebrations while emphasizing safety measures. Authorities in several countries are implementing crowd management and public health protocols. Humanitarian groups are preparing outreach programs to support vulnerable populations during Eid al-Fitr festivities, especially in conflict-affected regions. In Kabul, Afghanistan, a hospital strike has escalated humanitarian concerns. As of March 16, 2026, at least 152 lives were lost and more than 340 people injured. Hospital staff went on strike demanding better wages, security, and adequate supplies. International agencies, including the Red Cross and UN health bodies, are coordinating emergency support while urging Afghan authorities to ensure essential services remain operational. The strike highlights ongoing healthcare challenges amid political instability. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) has issued warnings regarding the Republic of Congo's financial stability. Rising national debt, declining oil revenues, and weakening fiscal policies have raised concerns about the country's ability to sustain social programs. IMF analysts note that without urgent economic reforms, Congo may face long-term macroeconomic instability, which could affect neighboring Central African nations and regional trade. Ghana is reviewing proposals from local investors to revive the Diamond gold mine, potentially valued at $1 billion. The government's evaluation aims to maximize domestic ownership, ensure environmental sustainability, and create jobs. Analysts note that successful privatization could strengthen Ghana's mining sector, attract foreign investment, and serve as a regional model for resource management. Discussions also include stricter safety and labor standards alongside community development measures. South Africa has deployed 2,200 soldiers across Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, and Western Cape as part of a 13-month anti-crime initiative. The program targets gang violence, illegal mining, and organized criminal networks in urban and peri-urban communities. Officials stress that the operation is intelligence-driven and involves collaboration with police and community organizations. Analysts point out that the deployment underscores the challenges law enforcement faces in curbing organized crime in high-risk areas. We have now come to the end of our news broadcast. Before we go, here is a recap of today's headlines. Middle East conflict escalates between Israel, US, and Iran. Israel eliminates top Iranian security official. Iran expands attacks across Iraq and Gulf region. UN and global powers call for restraint in Middle East. President Trump urges allies to join naval operations. Iran threatens major global tech companies. Ramadan nearing end across Muslim communities. Major hospital strike in Kabul, Afghanistan. IMF warns of financial stress in Congo. Ghana reviews $1 billion gold mine revival bids. South Africa deploys army to combat crime. For continuing coverage, expert analysis, and live updates, stay connected with the Papyrus Global Television. Visit papyrusdaily.com for breaking news. I am your host, Christiana Babayo. Thank you for joining us. On behalf of the entire newsroom and production team, have a safe and pleasant evening.